Well, hello everyone. I am here today with just me, myself and I. We asked many of you listeners what you wanted us to record, to record some solo episodes about. We're going to kick the first one off and talk a little bit about how I travel, what I do, and all the tips and tricks that I've learnt along the way. I do a lot of traveling for work these days. Actually, I used to do far more than I do now, but I do a lot of travel for work. I have a few tricks that I think are worth talking about. I also think that there's some other little hacks that you'll find useful. Now, the first thing I want to say, travel is as hard as you're ever going to make it. Jet lag is as bad as you're ever going to tell yourself it's going to be. Whilst I am a little bit under the weather at the moment, I was actually sick before I left to go away and got better whilst I was away and then went downhill after my work was done. I think I must have been running on adrenaline, which is not what I recommend. I'm not suggesting anyone should do that, but that's just the way it worked out. I am not feeling 100% today, but I'm not jet lagged at all. I slept a full night last night, woke up at 6 o'clock this morning. Let's talk about all the things. Let's talk about all of these things, but let's make this easy. If you tell yourself that jet lag is going to be a thing, of course it's going to be a thing. If you tell yourself it's going to be awful and you're going to feel all of the feels, you're going to feel all the feels. There's a few things you need to know. So the first question is, do I plan my trips? Now, I don't have anyone planning my trips for me. I do think that travel is of high importance to me. One of my highest values is travel. I love traveling. I love airports. I love planes. I love it all. And I love doing it on my own and I love doing it with my family. I just love it. So I love planning my trips and I love doing everything from the booking to looking where I'm going to sit to see if I can use points to upgrade. I love all of it. But I'm not one to travel with an itinerary. I wing it. Even when we went to Europe last year, we had our main places that we were going. But aside from that, we kind of just winged it. And I love that more than anything. Actually, one of the things with travel I really do think is that you have to be flexible. You really have to be fluid and open to challenges that come up. There's always going to be something that rears its head and you've just got to take it as part of it. When I was away last week, actually this week, I knew that there was going to be an issue with one of my tickets. I decided to change my flight path. There's a rule with, I don't know if it's all American airlines, but with the airline that I was flying with, that you can't have two tickets at the one time. Because I decided to change where I was going, I had quickly got on and booked a ticket to take me where I wanted to go next. So I was going from San Diego to San Francisco. But my original ticket had me going from LA to San Francisco. And I was like, silly, it's no point going all those different legs. I might as well just fly direct and cancel that other ticket. And also it was actually financially made more sense as well. I looked at the prices of everything. I was like, this makes no sense for me to do all of these trips. I booked the flight. I tried to call the airline, couldn't get through. After 45 minutes, it was midnight. I thought, you know what, I'll just deal with this in the morning. Of course, I woke up and the ticket was cancelled. The ticket that I actually wanted was cancelled. You've just got to go with it. The nice thing about a lot of these airlines is they have great customer service. So you can get on and talk to someone pretty quickly and rectify it. And you know what? You just take it as it comes. You've just got to be flexible, not be stressed about it. It always works out. I think the other thing that happens with travel is we get very stressed that we're going to be stuck somewhere. Chances are that's not going to happen. You can generally find a flight at some point in time. See, again, you've just got to reframe it. And I get it. And I watch people in airports and they do the craziest things. Like truly, if you just really want to understand psychology of people, just people watch at the airport. Truly, the most wildest behaviours happen at airports. I love planning all of it. I do it all myself. In fact, some of these trips that I do for a company that I'm working with in the US, they sometimes book my flights. Well, they do book my flights for me, but I get in there and I'm able to kind of have a bit of a say as to how it goes. Yes, that's that question out the way. One of the other things that I know many of you are fascinated in is that I always travel with carry-on only. And this is for a few reasons. Often I'm on my own and the idea of not having my luggage with me is scary. I can fit things into a carry-on. I'm like the master packer. The longest amount of time I've done with carry-on is 3 weeks. So it is possible. However, there's a couple of things I was thinking about. If you have to go away for winter, that can be a challenge, although I have done that. I've packed carry-on for winter. Depending on the size of your clothing, obviously that can be part of it, I guess, as to how small you can fold it. My main reason is you just never know, again, what's going to happen. If a flight's delayed, I've just got everything with me and I can run from one flight to the next. It's always been been such a great thing. It also means that I can move through customs super quick as well. My time from getting to Melbourne Airport last week before, through border security and through whatever it's not called, customs, was 7 minutes. Coming back home, it was less. It was so quick, but I didn't have to wait for baggage. So that often helps, doesn't it? I am going to ask for your help. We are on a mission to hit 4,000 subscribers in the next 30 days. I've got a stat here. 97% of you aren't actually subscribed. That's crazy. So for every follow, like, share, subscribe, that all really helps us to continue to get the guests that you want. So can you please join me in becoming one of the 4K crew? That would help me and I would love it so much. How do I stay healthy whilst flying? Obviously, at this point in time, I actually didn't take great care of myself. However, I do try my hardest. I mean, my nutrition doesn't really change. The way that I do things doesn't really change. I try and keep on keeping on with the routine. But in terms of how I actually fly, I am very much nowadays aware, especially when I'm flying to the US, because that's my most frequent trips, is that I have a bit of a routine. So when I get on the plane, I'm never going to sleep that long haul flight. But if I can get 4-ish hours, then I'm usually pretty good from then on in. And that allows me to transition to the next time zone really quickly. So let's count this back. Usually the flights leave in the morning, give or take around 9, 10 a.m. And it's usually a 14-hour flight, especially if you're going into LA. So given this information, I normally would try to get 4 hours sleep within the last sort of 6 hours of the flight, trying to align my time because you normally land in the morning. So I kind of work backwards. I go, okay, if I could get 4 hours sleep, and I just sort of trick my brain into getting into that meditative state, and I keep my eyes closed. I put the eye mask on and I kind of don't take no for an answer. But you can't overthink it. This is the trick. You cannot overthink sleeping on a plane. You have to just trick your mind into that meditative. I call it this, that space in between where you're kind of awake, you're kind of asleep. It's quite nice. And I try and get my mind there. And once I get my mind there, I know I'm going to sleep. The other thing I will not do, because let's face it, sleeping on a plane, especially if you're in economy, is not comfortable. I will not open my eyes. I will not open my eyes. When I stir, I know I'm stirring. I will wake up, but I will close my eyes and go, let's see if we can just go another round, Nat. Let's just see if we can go another round. And chances are I can generally go another round. So that's what I do on the way over. On the way back, I'm usually so exhausted that I will sleep that majority of that flight. My flight back yesterday, day before, was 16 hours and I slept 12. The poor lady next to me, at one point she did wake me up to go to the bathroom, and I play a game. I'm like, let's just see if we can go back to sleep again. No pressure. Shut your eyes, see what happens. Get myself into that space and off I go. So 12 hours is pretty good, especially because it was 10 and then an interrupted bathroom break and another few hours after that. Also, a couple of things people have pointed out. I am 157 centimetres. I can sleep on a plane because I can get myself in a little ball. I also have another couple of things you need. You need a hoodie or at least a jumper or a jacket with pockets. I don't know what it is about putting your hands in your pockets. I guess it's kind of like sleeping with your hands under your ear, but it helps you to stay asleep for some reason. And then the eye mask is also tremendous because it stops the light coming in. So there's some things that I absolutely insist on having. What else are my non-negotiables? I don't use a neck pillow, although I probably should. Most of the headrests you can pull either side and you can kind of sleep. You just don't overthink it again. You got to go with it. Oh, I know what else I need. I need noise-cancelling headphones. I was once gifted a couple of pairs of quiet-ons. They're not attached to anything. They're just noise-cancelling earbuds. They are the greatest to sleep in. I also love Bose headphones that are noise cancelling, and I actually these days often just sleep with those in. They're not plugged into anything, but the noise cancelling part of that is turned on. They are a little bit annoying because there's wires everywhere, but you know what, whatever, they work. And they're quite sturdy, so they kind of stay. Okay, so you need noise cancelling headphones, you need a jacket with pockets, and you need to get your mind into that space. I think that's all you need. Try not to overthink it. One of the other questions I get asked often is, do you fly business or economy, and is it worth it? It's a very good question, actually, because it is quite expensive at the moment, especially to fly business. If I am flying for work and I need to hit the ground running and I have the ability to upgrade, I will always try and upgrade. Having said that, the flight home, because I just sleep regardless, I kind of sometimes can't even justify it. I will, however, if I have points, I will always try at least to be premium economy, but you are still sitting up in premium economy. It really does depend, but it's a bit of all of the above. Also, once you've flown premium economy in business, it's very hard to not fly business or premium, but doesn't mean that sometimes I don't do it either. So all of the above. Sometimes it's just how are you going to get there. But I do use the loyalty programs for airlines, and I try and keep all of my flights with the same airlines so that I can upgrade, and I usually do have enough points to upgrade most flights, which is great. So keeping with the one airline I think is smart, and it means that they can see that you've got status and loyalty with them. Also, to that point, with traveling with carry-on, a few of you will say, well, what's the weight on that? For the US, there's no restrictions on weight. They don't care what you take. Having said that, for Europe, they do. They will weigh it. And we ran into this challenge last year when we went to Greece. We all had a carry-on each and one large suitcase, and all of them had to be checked. But also, I didn't really mind. If you're checking one, then you might as well check all, right? And I also don't mind if my luggage goes missing, but I have my family with me. As long as my family don't go missing, I'm okay. The weight doesn't seem to matter. When you have status as well, I'm just going to tell you that they don't really check either, which sounds a little bit privileged, but that's about loyalty and staying with the same airline. It's not something you necessarily pay for. That's my hacks with that. Now, with jet lag and coming back and adjusting to those time zones, that's how I do that. I think the noise cancelling headphones are a big part of not getting jet lag, to be honest, because you can actually rest better. But also what I will do is to avoid jet lag on the way over there, sleeping those 4 hours or 5 hours on the way over. Once I'm there, staying awake until that evening means I'm straight onto the time zone. And the same thing in reverse. If I've slept the entire night, well, not really, 12 hours on the way back, that's usually about 3 a.m. our time that I would wake up. I just know that the first night I get back, I need to try and stay awake as long as I can. And normally I go to bed around 8, and then I will wake up as normal the next day. Jet lag's not a thing when you do that. Things that I travel with that really help, obviously my M-body. You see, for so many reasons, traveling with M-body is so important. It helps to keep your bowels regular. I know a lot of people get habitual constipation when they travel. Yeah, habitual constipation. There's another name for that. Anyway, it's when you're outside of your routine. M-body really helps with keeping the bowels regular. It helps to bind the bowel if it gets loose because you've eaten something gnarly or you've got a bit of a bug. And then, of course, MSM is also amazing for inflammation, for any pain. It's good for if you've got sun exposure. So many reasons why. So M-body is a non-negotiable. I also travel with fish oil as a non-negotiable. Great if you get sunburnt, great if there's inflammation, if you get sick, like there's so many reasons why I do that. And magnesium, is the other one that I will always travel with, which is great for relaxation, sleep if you're having trouble sleeping, and stress as well. I try not to go too crazy, I should say. They're the supplements that I tend to travel with. And doing that, it means I kind of have a way out. If I've eaten something that hasn't agreed with me, or I'm not feeling my best, or I'm feeling bloated, I don't find that happens when I travel with these 4 supplements. So that makes things really easy, and I just try and remain calm. I try and just go with the flow. I can't always control the food. I can't always control the quality of the water. There's a lot of things that are outside of your control when you're traveling, so you just have to do your best that you possibly can and try not to get too beat up about it. When I'm traveling, my routine tends to go out the window, and I'm okay with that. My routine at home is very different, and we're going to do an episode on what a day looks like and what my routine looks like. But definitely when I'm traveling, if I can go and exercise first thing in the morning, then I will, but it doesn't always allow me to. I will always try and seek protein where I possibly can, and I try and obviously get my sleep in. They're the things that I really can control. Depends on what we're doing and what our days look like, but I am outside of my regular environment. I don't expect it to be what I can do at home. I don't often have a car. I can't necessarily get the things that I would ordinarily do. When I'm traveling to the US, I will often do a Whole Foods order when I get there so that I can have at least some breakfast items, but it really does depend. Here's a big question that often gets asked though, guys. Do I travel with family? When it's for play, absolutely, of course. I don't want to go anywhere on my own. I want to go with my family. When I'm traveling for work, I actually find it quite challenging traveling with the family because you are torn between working whilst they're off doing what they would normally do on a holiday, and it can feel like you are torn between two different things that you're doing. So when they were little, yes, we used to travel as a family all the time. But nowadays, because they've got their own commitments as well, it's easier to not travel for when I'm working and bring the whole family along, because it can actually be quite stressful for both of us. It can be stressful for me going, I feel like I should be with them, but I'm here for work. And they're going, Mum, what are you doing? We're on holiday. Why aren't you with us? I think it's important to acknowledge that. And I think it's also really important to acknowledge that when I am traveling for work, that they're always with my husband and they're always being taken care of and they're not missing out on anything. My husband is amazing. He does most of the after school running around with them anyway, so it's not too different than what it would normally be. And when I'm traveling also, we very much enlist the help of my mother-in-law too, who does a lot of the cooking, which is awesome. Usually when I'm away for work, it's for work and work only, and I can then stay very focused on what I do. And it also means when I get back, I can be mum again. I like doing both of those things. I haven't always been this relaxed with travel. I think as you do more of it, you learn to be more relaxed. But I wish I had have figured that out earlier. I wish I had have realised that this is as hard as I make it. This is as stressful as I make it. Travel can feel very stressful because there's a lot of unknowns, but I think it always works out in the end. So we don't need to be as stressed as often we find ourselves being when we are travelling, and it's always worked out 100% of the time, guys. So I think that there's something to be said about that. Let me just look at some of these other questions that I had here. I think we've already talked about packing and how I like to pack and how I travel fairly light. I am very strategic with the way that I do that. I think about the outfits that I'm going to wear ahead of time. I get very mad at myself if I haven't worn everything in my suitcase, but I've really learnt to minimize things and not overpack because there's just no point in it. And then you're just lugging around a whole lot of stuff. It's just, I'm not about it. So I tend to, yes, definitely pack light. And I say that's probably the difference between traveling now and in my 20s. I would have packed everything in the kitchen sink and thought it was funny. And now I'm like, you just don't need to even do that. And you got to think about how many times do you go away and you look at your suitcase, you're like, I didn't wear half of those things. And so I know myself now. I know what I like to wear. I know how to put outfits together in my head. I will have maybe one or two extra options, but I plan on wearing pretty much everything that is in my suitcase. That's just such a huge weight off my shoulders also. It's very purposeful as to how I've packed that and what I put in there, right down to the shoes because they're heavy and they take up a lot of space. So you need to think about that as well. I think that's all of my tips. I don't know if I've missed anything. You should let me know if there's something else you want to know about travel. I know lots of you have a lot of questions about it. Like I said, I love traveling, whether that's with the family or not, and I have a great time doing it. So hopefully this has been a little bit of insight as to how I do travel. And of course, if there's things that you want us to talk about, then you need to absolutely let us know. I hope you've enjoyed this episode and hearing a little bit more about me and personally how things go. If you have not yet rated The Wellness Collective, I would love for you to do that. Please go ahead and give us a rating. Always welcome to leave a review as well. Those things make me so happy. Well, that's it for me today. Until next time, bye for now.